Work session meeting of February 1st, 2016 order. We do have a forum, public forum. Individuals may address the city council about items not included on the agenda. Speakers are required to state their name and address for the council record and limit the remarks to 3 minutes or less. Speakers are requested to frame their comments around items that fall within the authority of the city council. Generally, the city council will not take official action on the items discussed at this time, but may place the item on file, take the matter under advisement, refer the matter to staff or committee for future report, or direct the matter to be placed on an upcoming agenda. Anyone wish to speak?
Are you going to speak?
Oh, you go ahead. You want to go?
You can go.
Is that okay?
Yep, go ahead. Come to the podium, please.
I'm Jim Mars. I live at the old Buckman Hotel in downtown, apartments. Only reason I'm here, no complaints or nothing. I was the first city engineer back in 1961. So, I know Little Falls quite well. I don't know, maybe some might have known our brother Tom Mars, the first city. The engineer at that time was Don Osmus. He'll be over there with the city council. Now Hammerbeck was head of the city council. I was here for 4 years. I left and taught civil engineering, I went to school here for 3 years. And now I was going to St. Mary. They came in the morning. I was just teaching little school out of town. And the apartment right across the street there. I'm still there. We're coming in, the schoolhouse was on fire. I don't know if any of you remember that or not, but I mean, it was on fire too. I mean, it burnt practically to the ground. The old school church was up here, about 4 blocks, 6, 7 blocks up on 4th Street. I have a lot of good memories. I remember all the old stores. The furniture store over here used to be Ike Borders. That's where I bought my first used car over there. I was next to the Munciewear building when it was Munciewear at that time. While I was here, they built a new one, but now I'm sure it's gone. So anyway, I hope I didn't run over my 3 minutes here, but it's just nice to, I was raised in the Lincoln area. Lincoln takes us back. County Road 3, Hammond Road. So anyway, it's nice to be home. I just wanted to address the council and say that I have a lot of good memories of Little Falls. I'm legally blind. I can't drive anymore on my bicycle. I have a house miles a year. I was about 80 years old, and there's about pretty close to 20,000 miles on the way. Went through 4 sets of tires, a couple of changes. So I'll let you go and thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
That's fine. I think I kept it for 3 minutes.
Yeah, you were under. About 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Yeah, I said I could
got a
have
long
paused him
time.
I could have harassed him for another 5 minutes, I guess. He must have stayed over there.
Robin Hensel, 807 First Street Southeast. The following are comments from the Morrison County Record online that most people wouldn't know about unless they read the online comments. I have a friend in Australia whose name is Amber, who is a Muslim. Leave Robin alone. She's a flower of enlightenment in a dark ambience of bigotry and hate. You Yanks really do need to show respect for other countries. You should not be proud of your scumbag soldiers when they kill our people and rape our women. We don't want to see your Al Capones and Butch Cassidys. Your hoodlums should stay inside the United States where they belong. Why don't you Yanks learn to make money the honest way? Do you have to kill and rape millions of people in their other lands to make profits? Isn't it enough that your General Custers have butchered anything between 10 and 50 million indigenous American Indians? Are you proud of the way you treat your African Americans since slavery and into second-class citizenship, as is the case now? Please get out of the Middle East and leave us alone. Also, good on you, Robin Hensel, and God help you. Achieving peace is hard work. Another comment that I don't know the name because my phone didn't save the name. There's also a grand irony that in expressing her opinion, She's simply making actual use of the freedoms for which terrorists supposedly hate America, a cliche repeated by politicians which could be construed as another example of willful deception, but that's another matter. The soldiers have supposedly risked or even lost their lives so people like Ms. Hensel can express their opinions free of harassment or censure. By definition, she's being patriotic, but in practice, who harasses and hates her more for her actions and opinions? Supposed enemies of freedoms overseas or her own community? The fact that she would be continually and increasingly harassed as an undesirable member of the town in which she lives, even threatened with violence, is indicative of a deep need for these small American communities representative of the country at large to take a good look in the mirror at how it actually treats legitimate dissent and expressions of conscience. Annette Lou John, who I don't know, writes, I don't live in Little Falls, but I visit there often. And it's sad to say, but the biggest problem with Little Falls has nothing to do with lights or signs or even robbing. It's the drugs ravaging this small community. The reputation of Little Falls as the sewer of Minnesota, instead of the home of Charles Lindbergh, is what comes to mind for most people. Whatever the mayor, city council, police, teachers, business owners, or just concerned citizens need to do, I really don't know, except to say, what is the culture of the people that such a small place has been almost completely taken over by drugs? And just a thought, the lack of Christmas lights is almost fitting. This town is in its death throes and should be in mourning for all the children who are the true victims of the
Thanks,
drugs.
Robin, your time's up.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Anyone else wish to speak? If you want to do it now, or if you do it at,
What's that?
if you want to speak now, otherwise we got you on the agenda.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's
Anyone else wish to speak? Hearing none, we move on to regular council items. Friends of Pine Grove Zoo update. Arnita?
Excuse me. Sleeping on the towel.
Good evening. I'm Arnita from Pine Grove Zoo. Thank you for seeing me this evening. I didn't get to chat with you at the budget meeting, so I'm going to give you some updates. I did hand out, Lori did, some things about the zoo this year. So in 2015, we had almost 30,000 visitors to the zoo, and that includes children 3 and under, includes fundraisers, events, general admissions. What is not in that number is when we go out to outreach presentations, when we go to senior care centers, different school groups, things like that. So we had a pretty good year. Weather was great, if you remember. It was sunny most of the weekends, and when it rained, it was overnight. So I think God was answering our prayers there. We have almost 1,500 members this year. We have provided more free educational and training programming for the zoo visitors on site. Our animals a bunch of them are on a training program, which we've been doing for several years. And so we were able to do demonstrations this year, which I thought was pretty amazing for our visitors to see. We had the most participants in our junior zookeeping program ever. We actually had too many, which was really nice. And then on June 1st, if you look at your maps there, we had placed in our admissions some big maps. The one on the left is the Minnesota map, and the one on the right is the map of the United States. And starting June 1st, we asked that a visitor place a tag from every location where they were located from. As you can see, the maps became so inundated by August, we could not put another tag in some of those areas. So that was pretty neat to see. It was actually a visual, and it was great for admissions people to see and other visitors to see that we are pulling from all over the United States, not just Minnesota. So you say, well, that's a great year. What's going to happen in 2016? In 2015, we had baby tigers, if any of you got to see them. We got the young male when he was 19 pounds. He now weighs 197. So he is no longer a little guy. We also had a young female, and she is a white tiger. We decided to do a white and an orange tiger so we could show for educational purposes the different things that happen with camouflage and so on in the wild. She came in 104 pounds. She's now 250. The big male will be over 500 pounds when he's done. So in 2016, we wrote and received a grant that would provide us to get iPads for some educational programming for the groups that come. Some groups cannot afford to do our guided tours, and so we got some iPads so that they can actually do and help with programming throughout the zoo. And this will simply have a map of the zoo, and it'll be an icon of each animal at each location. They can touch on that icon. There will be a video of the animal, because sometimes they're sleeping if it's a hot day. And then also some informational programming about the different exhibit and the animals. So we're excited about that. We are doing a website currently, because the one we had, let's just say it was Christopher Columbus style. So we've actually moved into the 21st century with that, hoping to again promote more growth and with our visitors and bring in some more visitors to the zoo. We just partnered with the high school to bring in interns from the high school. We currently have 3 of them, so we've partnered with them to get them an on-the-job type training so they can see what the zoo field is all about. As well as we're also doing some additional training inside the zoo that people will be able to see. And we're actually doing some research on a guest animal. So no, I'm not here to ask for any money. Can you believe it? I know, right? We're actually looking at a guest animal like we do with the baby bears. They come in, we have them for the season, we take them home, so we can always have babies, as they are a huge draw to the zoo. We're looking at doing African hoofstock that we would again bring in as baby and take it back in the fall. So we don't have any details on that yet, but as soon as we do, we'll let you know with that as well. But that would go in one of our existing exhibits. And finally, the exhibit committee has just begun to start meeting on researching the funding and needs for an otter exhibit. So, you know, every day somebody's asking me what's new at the zoo, and other than us going a little crazy, those are the things new at the zoo. Do you have any questions?
What do you foresee with the Safari North by Brainerd? What do you foresee with them taking visitors away, or do you see that as an enhancement of bringing visitors into Little Falls?
You know, when they opened, which happened to be in 2014 when we had the really hard year and it rained every weekend, they opened. And I think, as typical with anything new, people went to see it. What we found in 2015 is the exact opposite. We're not only less than half price, but I think people got to see more realistic exhibits. Our animals are in a different habitat and are in different conditions. So we've actually had really great response from the people that have been there and then came back to us. So, you know, we can only control what we can do, and that means trying to keep our game on high and doing as much programming and things like that. Will it hurt us? Maybe. But we've had a really great response of the people that have come back, so we're excited for the future.
Mr. President, I have a couple comments. When you and I talked to a lot of St. Cloud people, and it's amazing how many St. Cloud people actually come to Little Falls to see our zoo. Is there nothing between here and Minneapolis, or?
There is a little zoo that is privately owned called Hensel Zoo, and it's over by Cold Spring in that area. I know them actually quite well. And so there's a little one there, but I think what's happening is we actually are finally starting to get them to realize that there's things north of St. Cloud. And we are drawing them in like crazy from St. Cloud. So yeah, between, you know, us and Cold Spring and Safari North, there's not much else within this region.
Well, and then also look at that map of the United States and see where they all come from. That's pretty exciting to think that it's such a draw that once they're in the area that they make it a point to come and see our zoo. So kudos for the job that you do over there. It's pretty awesome. And I have a question for John. I'm sure once we get our new website up and running, they'll be able to, easy access to the zoo's website, which will make it really nice.
That would,
Awesome.
that would be,
Good work.
thank you, thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions from Arnita?
Yes, Arnita, Parks and Rec, that's gonna be up next. We're trying to pay down the zoo debt in order to put up your cat. So we could get on that a little sooner. What is the possibility of us getting on to, where we can get money from the state of Minnesota for zoo here, accredited?
Sure. You know what I'd have to do, actually, we started to go for accreditation back in 2010 and missed it by the carnivore building. I have not looked at the regulations now for accreditation since then, because that's one of the steps that we had to do. I think we'd have to get on our legislatures and see, you know, where they feel this is going. You know, for some of you and some of you are new, when we go for a carnivore building and we get accredited, there is part of the gaming fund that is allotted for the 3 accredited zoos in the state of Minnesota, that you get a percentage every year, and it's just given to you. There's no other requirements except you have to be able to get your name in there. As you can imagine, the other 3 zoos are not going to be excited to lose some of their funding unless they would change the percentage of the gaming funds. So, you know, I think the first step would be to see where our representatives stand and our senator, because one of them would have to carry the bill for that. And then, you know, what kind of a possibility we have. And if we want to go to that route, we could certainly look at what the current regulations are for accreditation. They change every single year.
Yeah, because there was some money that we're trying to get pushed towards that. If it's feasible, it makes sense to do it, because the sooner we get the carnivore building up, the sooner you can pursue a lot of that accreditation. And so we're trying to decide what to do with that. I'm kind of a proponent, give you guys the money to pay down the loan, but then I was speaking to some people, if the feasibility or possibility isn't there, why do it? You know, so.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think the carnivore building is important for more reasons than just accreditation. You know, currently we had to move our tigers into the main building for the winter because it was really cold outside, and we were worried about the tips of the ears and the tips of the tails and things like that. And so when you have a young animal or an animal that is aging, those become an issue or a concern. And we have huts full of straw. The thing is, it would be nice to have them in a building where we could regulate, not just, you know, if they're eating properly and we watch every diet, but just being able to get them off site and off exhibit. So if one is not feeling well, we have the ability to do that a little bit better. Also in there is the ability to have quarantine areas, because we don't have that currently. So when we get a new animal, we have to be careful how we introduce that, because of course when you bring in new animals, you can bring in parasites and disease and other things. Although you do your best to, you know, watch that before you bring the animal in. It'd be nice to have the quarantine areas so that we could properly quarantine them in an area that's not going to make the other ones possible to them.
Is that also for the mountain lions and, okay.
Yep, the carnivore building would kind of sit in where the big cats are at. So it would have, right now it houses the tigers, the bobcats, the cougar, the wolves would be in there. Plus a kitchen, a walk-in refrigerator. We had a walk-in freezer that is old. We actually bought it from Don's Food Pride. For those of you who remember Don's Food Pride, was an old pizza wagon, and it's our walk-in freezer now for all of our meat. We would put that in the building. So it'd be nicer to have that when you don't have to go outside and chip the snow away. So that's all part of the carnivore building.
So besides getting it accredited, you need building. You need, okay.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Marnita.
All right, thank you.
Park Rec and Tree Board recommendation, sale of property.
Yeah, so on page 2 of your packet, we have a breakdown from the discussion at the last council meeting of the funds from the sale of vacant property. So there were a total of 3 purchasers of various lots, one being significant, like a whole block, I believe. And the total of that, the proceeds of that after expenses was $49,551.91. So, and then as part of what Frank was also talking about, we do have a dedicated revenue source to help paying down for the zoo improvement. The zoo improvement and the golf course improvement funds are the only 2 major improvement funds that carry a major deficit balance, and they do now have dedicated revenue streams to help pay down those balances. The zoo improvements comes from the tower leases, and in 2015, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, it gained back almost $21,000. And with the 2 tower leases, they average a 3% increase in the rent every year. One's 3% every year, and the other one is a 3% increase over the average of 5 years. So we'll get all of it in year 5. So those 3% per year. So we do have a pretty good stream with that increase in that tower rent and the payback for the zoo debt. We'd have it paid off within 8 years, probably closer to 7. So there are some dedicated streams with that.
How much interest are we paying on that?
So the interest is based off of how much interest we're collecting for the city's invested funds as a whole, and then that percentage that's calculated to the deficit of these funds is applied back. So these funds are paying that back. However, interest rates in the marketplace right now are really, really poor for what we can invest in. So I think what we calculated out with the zoo is paying about $300 a year in total interest back.
And then
From what's-
150 or
Yeah.
I wish I could get interest rate like that.
So yeah, when you're borrowing, that's the interest rates you want. When you're investing, it's not very good. So really, they aren't too bad of a drain on our funds because interest rates are so poor. If interest rates were, if we're getting 3, 4, or 5%, yeah, it'd be a significant problem for us to be carrying those deficit balances against the rest of the investments. So it would be hard for this to make up the difference just with those tower leases, but. I don't see interest rates climbing very much. The Fed just announced they were going to keep them stagnant after one increase in the last 5 years. So, it's one of those things that it's good on one side and bad on the other. We do have a means of paying it down. It's just at this point without any other influx of revenue, it's going to take a few years to get that. So what we had talked about in the budget discussion last fall was an opportunity. We did not have these funds. We didn't feel these funds were absolutely dedicated towards anything. However, with further research, we did have the discussion from the park board that there was a possibility that maybe these vacant lots could be turned into parkland. Ultimately, we decided it was not. They were paid off, and then the park board made the recommendation they utilize those funds towards paying down the zoo debt. So
It actually started, we initiated to sell them. We were trying to come up with ideas to pay down the zoo debt in order to get it paid off quicker so we could get our cat building in. That's where that all came from. So I don't know if that property would still be sitting there, not sold right now if we didn't do that. So that was the original intent. And then it was discussed with the city council, Jerry Lochner, if we should pursue such a thing. And we did. It was mentioned where it all generated, or originally came from. And then from that point, it did sell, but then it went into the general fund. And for some reason, even though the board, Parks and Rec Board recommended that way back, and they thought it was going to be brought to the city council right away, it has never been done. It never was. We couldn't figure out why not. And that was a long time. We had a few meetings where we brought it up to the attention of somebody to bring it before the council again, but it never came before the council. So almost had a feeling we were being sidetracked for some reason. But I don't know why it would be so important to stick it somewhere else instead of the original place that we proposed it and that we started with Parks and Rec. I still think we should pay this loan down sooner than 8 years in order, if there is a chance we can get a cat building faster and sooner, the better for the cats. And if we are ever going to get accredited. So that's my thought behind it. And I guess, you know, the council can do whatever they feel, but I just want the public to know basically where our intent was at the beginning, and to choose not to honor that, I guess I can't do anything more.
Well, back to the beginning of this whole thing, Frank, if I recall right, I believe this is all initiated from the Habitat for Humanity looking for lots to build.
No, it
They wanna
didn't.
Put them in an area, but they don't want to be confined to having all of them
I'm
in
on
one
that group
area.
too. It didn't. It started at Parks and Rec. We were looking for ways to pay down because I heard back then they needed to get that. I was with Marnita on the whole thing, discussing about how we can get accredited. So we were looking for ways to pay down that loan quicker than even the 8 years it's gonna take now. So that's where it all originated. It wasn't Habitat for Humanity. Later on, we were looking for habitat land in different places because there was a request from the city, from Habitat. They were looking for areas to build. HRA is another place that was looking for areas to build, and the discussion was brought up after that. We didn't care who bought the land, we just wanted, our intent was we wanted the sale of that property to go toward paying off the zoo debt.
So that isn't where that originally initiated from, when they came in looking for lots of land. We
No.
went through, we put our whole plan together and all the different lots.
That was actually
All the-
after,
All the property that was
after.
city owned, and we looked at this person to get off, back on the tax roll at the time.
And actually it all happened after the whole zoo, the proposal from Parks and Rec. And as far as anyone is concerned, who bought the property didn't really matter, and there was some talk about even, I think that area that, the biggest amount that was sold here, Habitat was looking at some of that. They just couldn't afford to buy the whole thing at one time, and they were proposing to build segments, if you remember that discussion.
I do remember, because they were looking for lots, and we wanted to sell them the whole block, but they
They
didn't want all theirs
they
put in
didn't
the
want the
same
whole
spot, and they
thing.
didn't have the money at the time.
Yeah.
They only had 30,000 to spend, and they didn't have enough to purchase the whole block.
So can we not be accredited if we have a debt, or all is that tied together? or-
We have to get the cat building up.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to sell to the community and everyone instead of going into a whole lot when we have a debt already. Maybe it's better to get rid of the existing one before we incur another one.
So I don't see the difference, I guess, if we give it to the zoo and borrow more money to the zoo, or if we do our comp plan and update our website, so if the money comes from this or if it comes from the other, either way,
Either
we're
way,
gonna have
it's
to put money.
coming out of city's money, community.
How much is the comp plan?
There's a,
What would we have to propose on here today?
it's in the, there's a proposal in there, it's about
25,000?
19,000.
19,000. And we got 49,551 in here.
What's that also do? Is that also budgeted for the website, or is that?
We
different dollars?
did not we did not include those in the budget for this year because there was this we were discussing this as potential use of funds that were we had thought were undesignated, and now we're the department's got to bring my attention. I wasn't aware of it, so that at that preliminary discussion for the budget, we were talking about we had these funds, we had a comp plan review, an update that we wanted to do, and website. So we didn't include them in the budget because we thought we could designate these funds. So doing some more research on them and talking about the parks and the park board's recommendation, this is what has been brought forward. So now I think the decision will be, do you utilize these funds for the park and/or, supply, meet the park board's intent of helping pay down that debt soon? Neither of which are included in the 2016 budget at this time. But you do have what we feel is $49,000 of undesignated funds to utilize for something. And we
Was
have-
it a pot, can't we just, we can do both, can we split that money? I mean, could you take $19,000 and we can accomplish our comp plan
Mhm.
and then give $30,000 to the zoo to pay down that debt, which would cut down the time that we would take to pay off the debt we got there. I mean,
From a staff perspective, Mr. President, the comp plan and the city website update are more important than paying down the zoo debt, simply because we do have a plan in place to pay that down.
Is there any other money in the general fund where you could do your comp plan and your city website?
Not currently.
Lori, did you have something?
Well, and just as a point of clarification, that zoo debt, that isn't money that the zoo owes the city. That's an internal funding thing. I mean, it's our fund that's just in a negative balance. It isn't like the zoo owes us any money. So I kind of hear, like the Friends of the Zoo owe us this money, and they don't. It's our fund that's just running a negative balance.
So it's not like we're gonna bankrupt the zoo and close them up tomorrow because they don't pay their bill.
Correct. Left pocket, borrowing to the right pocket.
Well, like I said, I know what the original intent was, I know where I'll vote, I know what I'll tell people. If you guys want to do it the other way, that's up to you. I'll have to just let it go at that, You live with your conscience, I'll live with mine.
Oh yeah, Frank, you gotta remember back though, most of these people weren't even on the council when this was discussed, back when Jerry was here. And there's a lot of he said, she said, back when Jerry was here, and we always go back to, well, Jerry said this, they didn't find anything in the minutes, correct? That it was,
No,
so
not at
obviously,
council level.
right, there was no action taken by the council on where to disperse the money. So I don't know how you can go play the old guilty conscience trip.
I said your own conscience.
Right,
I wasn't on the park board at the time, but from our meetings, everybody else was at the time. They're all some pretty strong feelings about the original.
So
The reason the property was brought up to sell it was to help pay that down.
So was the last council. A lot of them members knew what was going on then. They were waiting to see if it would sell, and for some reason it was never brought back. And that's why it ended up where it is.
So just as a point of clarification,
Yes.
19,000 was just for the comp plan, that doesn't include the website?
No.
update?
No.
So how much is the website?
We have an estimate from one other community that we'd like to kind of utilize their form, and they were about $20,000.
That's a lot of money for a website.
But it is the form to get information out to the public.
Well, and I hear more and more comments all around about this, what ours is. I had one, some changes. I'll tell you, I'm not the best at it. You don't want me in charge of it. I just continue, we continue to have these verbal things that kind of bother me. And I'm not taking a shot at it, I'm not saying they aren't there, but I just, we have a hard time with things that somebody said, and, if you guys say that park board is pretty vehement that there was an agreement on this, I believe you, but I just wish some of this stuff was in writing, so we have it in front of us where we can say, okay, there was an agreement, because I hate going back on agreements.
The question I have on that, the $2,000 a month from the leases, was that in place at the time the discussions were on the funds of the land sale?
Yes.
Yes, it
Okay, so
was.
that was already there.
Like I said, we're just trying to get it paid off quicker.
I still think, I like to compromise. I still think the best solution here, in my opinion, would be to split it up. I mean, one way or the other to make both sides happy. We can get our website, or we can get the comp. I mean, even that way, it's even putting 10,000 to that debt fund and still getting that, we're still meeting the needs of two areas instead of doing one and then creating negative
I guess
feelings here or negative feelings here.
If that's the feeling, then I think from the staff perspective, we have some priorities to, we did budget the capital improvement plan for Laserfiche or document management system. And we did budget about $25,000 for that for capital improvement costs for this year. It was budgeted last year, but we didn't get to it, so we carried it over until this year. You know, from the staff priorities perspective, we would probably like to see the website updated before we do the document management system. So if we were to, have to bite the bullet and take one or the other, I think we would probably be in favor of pushing towards the website too. So I guess if we were going to take something that was of funds that are allocated to be expended this year, we could utilize those. But otherwise, I don't know if there's a whole lot. I doubt there's very much undesignated funds that the city has out there. So if it were, or there isn't anything else budgeted for the city website, as well as making this compromise to use some of the funds for the zoo and some of the funds for the comp plan. So if that's the case, then we could carry something over into 2017 in that budget discussion for 2017 if something is left off the table.
I don't think that's what you meant, though.
No. What I'm saying is, we've got $49,500 bucks, right?
Yeah.
All right, and you got $19,000 for the comp plan, and you said about $20,000 for the website.
And that's
An estimate. So that's $39,000. Well, then we still got $10,000 left over from that land sale that we could put towards the zoo debt. It's kind of like a win-win situation here. We don't have to, it's granted they're not getting everything, or, we can, I would like to, my opinion is, instead of going this way or this way, I'd like to see us take it and split it and make, so that we can get something done, and then we can also work on that also, to the intent. I wasn't here when this all went on, so I'm learning all this brand new here, but to me it seems like a compromise would be a win-win situation for all of us. That's just my opinion.
Question, Marnita, what was the cost of the cat building at the time we were looking at putting that up? Do you recall?
Back in 2010, we did do some estimates, and of course that was
Right.
a lot of years ago. But we were looking at about 600,000 then. And we looked to get a chunk of that, a large chunk of that, if not all of it, from the state.
Right.
And we would go and, at that time we were looking at doing a bonding, some type of a bonding bill for that. So at that time we weren't looking at the city to do anything. We haven't checked into it though since then, so I'm not sure.
So it's going to be well half to $750,000 roughly.
I would say it's gonna run at least
Close to 3/4
700,
now.
750.
I didn't think it was that long ago, or else my memory's getting really bad.
It was
I thought
2010, yeah.
That long ago that we dealt with all that.
Mhm.
Is that when you were talking about this land sale?
That was after that.
Yeah.
Time
How long are we
flies.
going back on this discussion? I mean, I want to make the right decision. If the intent was to sell the land to pay zoo debt, show me, I'm okay with that. I mean, are we saying we
Go
want
look
to
at
sell
all
the
the
land
records
without
from
that?
Parks and Rec.
the land sale was in 2013, correct?
Yes.
And was the land going to be sold regardless, or was it
No, it wasn't
sold?
even at the
It
time.
was, from a little bit of history that I've heard, that Dan had recommended there was some, there was these vacant lots, vacant parcels that the city had a lot of, and that it was pointless. There was no intent to use them for anything else, so his recommendation, I believe, was to move them to a sale. And then I believe the park board probably
Park
made the
board was before that
recommendation.
even.
Because it had to go to the park board for, if they were going to use them for anything, if they had any intent for any city value or any future expansion of anything in the city. Before we're going to sell a piece of property, we got to go buy back for 3 times the money. So they make a recommendation to sell it, but we don't have the money to pay the zoo debt.
it didn't happen that way. The park board
They make a recommendation on what to use the money.
was looking for ways, and Jerry Lochner brought up the fact this property, some of it, the way we thought back then, was actually designated for parks, but there was no need for parks out in them areas. So then, from that point on, eventually it went to Dan later, and that's when he put the recommendation in to the council that we sell this property. There's no need, we're not intending on making any parks out of it. You don't have to go by my word, go talk to everybody on the Parks and Rec at the time, and they'll tell you the same thing I'm telling you, what all took place at that time. So, I'm gonna let it at that. We could discuss this forever.
Well, and I know we talked about this when we were in our pre-budget meetings. I wish we got in more depth on it in our budget meetings before we agreed on the budget, because then I would have been in favor of if we were going to give this money to the zoo of budgeting for the things that we needed, because we came in at 0.9 or whatever, and I don't think it would have had a huge effect on it. I can't remember how many thousand it was before it moved quarter%, John, or what it was, but yeah, it's been 1.2 or whatever, probably max.
At that meeting, it was brought up after the fact. It was like, we went through all our budgeting, and then, if I remember right, Lori brought up that we had this money, and then it was brought up what to do with it, and I heard about the website and everything, but I didn't think at the time there was a vote or anything. It was just like it was an information time, so I walked away from there a little confused about what really transpired.
Well, yeah, what we didn't, it was, in that discussion, we were talking about other things that we wanted to accomplish in 2016 that weren't in the previous budgeting plans. And and as I came along, wasn't involved in a lot of the groundwork from the departments and talking about what it is that the capital improvements and things that they wanted to have happen. So the comp plan and the website came up internally as discussion, but it was something that we didn't feel we could ask for the money to do because there wasn't enough time and plans to accomplish those items or include them in the budget that we were already presenting. So there, a lot of work goes into the budget before it ever gets presented. So Lori had informed me that there was these, sale of these property funds, and they'd been just sitting in the equipment fund, and they felt that there was no specific council direction of their designation. So the discussion from the park board was new to me when you brought it up at that budget hearing. So that's why we brought this up, and we never settled on anything at that meeting because we wanted to find some more information. So then when the park board met in December and made the formal recommendation to send to the city council, that's why we brought it forward at a later time to discuss it. So, and then we didn't have the exact numbers of what the discussion was at the last meeting, so we tabled it for this time so that we'd have the opportunity to discuss it more in depth. So,
Which was a good decision.
so it's the point of we have a need for two capital items in this year that we didn't have budget funds to do that, but we did have some what we thought were undesignated dollars that might fit the need to be able to utilize those funding streams for. So, I think what we're looking for is just a decision of the council so that we can move forward, considering that we have now a proposal for the comp plan review, and it's going to take some time to get accomplished. So, we're, I guess, asking for a decision at this time for the use of those dollars. So, if you really feel the past decision, and I was at the park board meeting when they made that discussion, and they were very aware and remembered pretty exactly that was part of their discussions. And when we went back into our minutes research to see if the council made a formal decision on those dollars, we didn't find them. The recommendation or the suggestions came from the park board, but I don't know if they ever got formally adopted from the council. So that's why we brought it. That said, I just got about a 10-minute presentation to kind of go over some ideas or use of these tablets to help you out. I hate to move the discussion along if it's not ready to end, but
I'm done.
we'll request a little time.
Any other questions for John or Frank or Brad? You said, yeah, it's on the,
We'll have a chance to discuss it.
Okay,
tablet training?
all right. If you can, I guess you've already gotten an introduction on how to turn them on, I hope. So I see they're all in front of people. I hope they're all working. If you don't, I can show it to you later. But a couple things that I would like to make sure that you all have, that they're on your desktops. There's a link or a folder called 2016-shortcut. That's a folder that we'll utilize to put the council packet information in there. We will email you the council packets when they go out regularly on Thursdays. So you will have them by email when you get home. You can only access this folder when you're actually in City Hall because it's connected to the access point that you have security to access here. So you won't get them you won't be able to access this folder unless you come here. So you'll get the packet by email, and then any additional information that we're bringing to the council meeting, rather than having to do printouts, we'll have it in this folder. So what you would need to do is, have your email first to review it, but then later, if there's additional stuff, or if you don't want to open your email to get to it, you can get to the packet when you're at the council meeting. So that said, we'll move on to the presentation. It's very, very basic. Pretty direct, but the very first thing, the power button is on your right side. It's that horizontal light to the left of that power symbol. So you already know how to turn them on. Log in, and this is something that if you're wishing to change it, we can change it later, but for everybody's purposes, it's the same as the username that you were assigned. So when you want to open a PowerPoint, or I guess is in our meetings we've discussed doing possibly a shared screen. We found there's some free options available, but they might not be the best uses for us. So if you went back to that main desktop and you saw that 2016 shortcut, what you'll do is you'll double click on that first, and then you'll get this window, and this will be what's currently available for you to access for the council meetings. And then this PowerPoint's actually in there, so if you wanted to open it up and have it on your own screen, you could do that. But then you double click on this folder. So that's actually a PowerPoint folder. So what you're looking at now is the PowerPoint that I'm doing for this meeting. So if you also wanted to run the PowerPoint, once you have that file open, then you can start the PowerPoint so that it's not in what you see now is currently just the building screen for PowerPoint. If you wanted to open it to the full screen so you could follow along and have it full screen on your tablet, you can press this button here at the top. It's the fourth button on the right, or down here below there's a Zoom bar. You can press that and that'll start the slideshow for you. So typically what you're going to have to do, this is the basic things that you're going to need for to have your council packet. To open Outlook is a little faster. It's that square at the bottom with this O in it. It's blue and there's an envelope looking like it's sticking out the side. So that's Outlook. And that's the email program that you have. And this is the email for your City of Little Falls web email address that you were given. So that's either the mayor or at large, or then the ward with the number and your elected designation. So if you're up for election this year, you're A. You're up for election in 2019, you're yes, sir.
I attended League of Minnesota Cities conference, and I wanted to give my take on it to the rest of the council members. So I just go to that email site, and I could do my outline or whatever and just send it to everyone.
Yeah. If you wanted to send off your notes from that meeting, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. This will be the email address that I would encourage everybody to be utilizing for all your city business, because when you're doing that, you're following under the same rules as staff in terms of that data is secured and protected and public knowledge for the city to utilize. So when you open Outlook, this is the screen that will pop up or look like it's very similar for most of you. You should have been getting, you should have gotten from Wendy the council packet via an email. So that it'll be a PDF attachment to in your message. So when you get your message, when you click on that line, when it comes from Wendy, you'll see this square over here, rectangle over here, and it'll be the meetings attachment. So what you need to do is either double click on it, and these tablets have a touchpad that's a square at the bottom. It's just like it's actually very similar to a mouse. You just drag your finger over it and it's like utilize the mouse. So then you can double click on the pad, or at the very bottom is just like your left button on a mouse, or if you have a mouse attached to it, you can utilize the same thing, or you can even touch the screen because they're touch screen. If you don't want to double click on it, you can move to this little arrow here you see on the right. It's a little triangle pointed downwards. If you click on that, it'll bring on a drop menu, and then from there you can select open. So if you do that, you'll open up what'll be your council packet. So when you first open your council agenda packet, this will be what should show up. Then I'd say just for recommendation, there's this tab that's open on the right that isn't really necessary for you to navigate to get through the packet. So if you just clicked on the button here on the right side, that would minimize it. And then a very good recommendation, what we found is with this PDF builder, it actually bookmarks everything, so it makes it a lot easier access to find stuff within the document. So that's this kind of a flag ribbon looking thing on the side. So if you click on that, then that'll pull the left side open to this screen. So then it'll have basically everything broken down into a form where you can just scroll through on the side. And once you click on one of those items, it'll automatically take you to that point in the packet. So with this packet, what you probably realize is that there's 113 pages, but when you actually look at the page numbers on the agendas, they don't correspond. Well, that's because we included your council revenue expense report in there for the last month. So you'll be getting that once a month. So one of these meetings, those numbers aren't going to directly correspond. But an easier way to get to everything is just to open up this bookmarks tab, and then from there you'll be able to quickly navigate to the items within the council packet that you're looking for. So what I recommend when we do have the council meeting going, you can just click on the 201-16 regular agenda, and what that'll do is it'll take you actually to the regular agenda point in the document. So what you see switching between the two screens. I actually clicked on that, and then I took a screenshot, and that's showing you exactly where we were. So from there, you can just scroll up and down by touching the screen. You can use the arrow keys on the keyboard. You can touch the touchpad using 2 fingers, up or down on there, to kind of navigate or scroll through the document. Or you can just simply click on the different bookmarks on the left. So another item of importance for you guys, what you may or may not want to do sometimes is zoom in on the document. There's a few different quick buttons to zoom. This one that's in blue highlighted up here is actually will automatically adjust the screen so that it's the width of the page, so the text is actually the width of the page that you see. The one to the right of that is one that would zoom it so that all you see on your screen is one whole page, but then the text gets really small, so it's kind of tough to read. So that might be easier for navigating through things, but mostly you're going to want to stick with the full page screen. You can also turn these tablets so that they would be in the portrait view, so like this, and it actually would change your screen, automatically change your screen. So you have a piece of paper, it would look more like a piece of paper on your screen. So you'd see a lot more of the document on there when it's in that portrait view. Then the third button here is actually what would change it to a read view. And what I found when I actually clicked on that, I wouldn't recommend doing it because it gets you to the point where it takes up your whole screen, so it's like this presentation, but then to navigate back is tricky. You actually have to press a function and another key button to get yourself back. So
Actually, it's just tap right in the bottom corner and it'll take you back.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got mine full screen. I start playing and there's a hotspot in the lower right corner.
All right,
that'll
there
take
you
you
go.
back.
He's right. So if you tap the bottom right corner, it'll take you right back. So there
Maybe
you
then
go.
enlarging it, Mr. Knopf showed me, you just touch it, spread your hands
Yep.
up.
So if you
and
touch the
enlarge.
screen and then, with 2 fingers and pinch out, that'll actually zoom you in. And if you do the inverse and put your fingers and pinch inwards, it will actually get smaller. It's a neat factor. So a couple other things that you can do within these packets is leave your comments or notes if you wanted to type them in. There's a button at the top, and I should go back and show you where that is. There's a button at the top, toolbar, that looks like this little call-out button, round balloon thing with a line and some dots in it. If you press on that, that's actually the comment button, and then the one to the right of it is the highlighter. So I'll show you what that looks like on the next screen. So when you press the comment button, what you can do, it'll bring up that little orange thing that's kind of hidden behind there. You can press that anywhere in the document. If you click within the document, it'll just leave it there, and then this comment window will open up, and then you can type whatever comment that you want to put next to that item. So if you had a note about something that we talked about in the agenda, you can put that in there. So then you can also highlight text. So if there's something that you were, say when you're looking at this after you got an email and you wanted to, give yourself a little reminder to go and talk about that when you're getting through and actually in the council meeting, you can set a highlighter and you can save that. So if you do any of these comments or highlighting, it's going to ask you to save the document when you're done. So that's the next thing that I'll show you. So when you close the packet after you've done either made a comment or highlighter, this is what's going to pop up. It's going to ask you to save the document. So you'd say yes, and then it's going to ask you where you want to save it. And I'd say choose a different folder, because if you choose any of these F folders, when you're not at City Hall, you're not going to be able to save it to anything. You're not going to have access. So you click on choose a different folder, and then it's going to bring you up to this window, and it should automatically populate you to this PC and documents, and that's where I would recommend saving something. So then you can leave the file name the same, or you can add something to say that you've made a note. So if you just click in that file name, that'll unhighlight it from blue, and then you'll be able to add something to it, and then you'd save. So if you do that, and then you want to bring that, you want to have access to that when you come back to the meeting, you'd actually need to open up the documents folder and save it. Or you could save it to the desktop, or you could save it anywhere that you could remember to open that folder. So, are there any other questions in our last couple minutes? I know it was pretty quick, but
You'll probably get some calls.
yeah. If you do, please call me, or I'll stop in too. I'm happy to show you how they work. Hopefully, if people are able to get onto the internet at home, if you had Wi-Fi. Otherwise, we're going to get you connected soon when you don't. So if you don't have access or something, and you want to make sure that you get it, come stop into City Hall with it, and I'll help you out. We'll get you what you need to keep going. I know it's going to be a work in progress to get used to these things. Not everybody's the same tech savvy skill, but I think in the end it's going to be really helpful.
How do you shut your highlighter off then, John?
Then when you want to get rid of the highlighter, either click on another one of those buttons at the top. I think actually I put a note on there.
Click on the hand.
Yeah, click on the hand, or would be the best, because then it's going to. The hand is not going to try to manipulate the document. It actually is going to let you help scroll through. So
Now, which one was the highlighter?
the highlighter is the one on the farthest right.
This guy?
Yep.
Okay.
So, all right.
And since you little kids here, they'd be flying through this stuff.
My grandkids say, what's wrong with you? Just press this and this. And you're so slow.
All right, that's all I got. And we're at 7:30. So we should probably
We'll take a 5-minute break and adjourn to the regular meeting.